Replays, and specifically replay cameras, are a bit of a pet subject of mine, I do have to admit, but bear with me on this. A couple of weeks ago, Sector 3 reached out and told me that they'd made some pretty big changes to their replay system, and that it was, at least in part, my fault. And as you can imagine, that was both intriguing and terrifying in equal measure. So I guess stick around to see how much trouble my big mouth's got me into this time. Hello fellow sim racers. There's no piece to camera this time because the studio's full of stuff I can't show on video until next week, but that's really no loss. So to the topic at hand. Last year I made a couple of videos talking about why I favour certain sims for content creation, and one of the big things for me was how straightforward it is to get in and make the kind of shots I like to make. Essentially, the reason I make YouTube videos is because in addition to being a frustrated wannabe racing driver, I'm also a frustrated wannabe filmmaker. And it's really the latter that drives my interest in forging ahead with the YouTube grind more than the former. Anyhow, long story short, Matthias from Sector 3 got wind of my petulant whinging about replay cameras and their generally dodgy user experience and incorporated some changes amongst a big reworking of the Raceroom UI. And as a quick aside, the overall UI changes are a really good step forward in making racing sims more accessible. Check out the new field of view calculator and onboard live field of view adjustment, as well as the graphical representation of force feedback adjustments. This is simple stuff, but it's touches like this that make racing sims much more beginner friendly, and that's something that's the Achilles heel of every major racing sim. So, to the replays. The first big improvement isn't a flashy one, but it is a biggie for me. Every single control is easily accessible on the UI. Nothing is hidden away. And you can remap all of the controls. All of them, right there from the replay menu. Super useful. Now, boring, I will admit, but the quality of life improvement here is massive. Much more interesting is the new camera animation system. If you've ever dabbled in any form of digital animation like Flash or After Effects, then this should feel very familiar. It's all simple, really. Move the camera to where you want to start and add a keyframe. This stores the camera's position and its place along the timeline. You can then move the camera to where you want the shot to end and add another keyframe. And if we play it back, we get a smooth, hands-free camera move. If you want to add a more human quality to the movement, then you can apply what's called easing to the keyframes. This changes the acceleration curve, making the transition between the static camera and the moving velocity feel much more natural. There are a lot of different curves to choose from, and we'll talk about this in more detail when I get into the examples in a moment. So that's the basics, but what can you do with it? The obvious place to start is to try and recreate some shots that would be difficult or impossible with a normal free-view camera. Let's try a tracking shot that's sort of typical of wire cameras, which we see a lot in motorsport these days. But since this is a racing sim, we can place the camera somewhere it would never be allowed on a real racetrack. So let's get in nice and close and low down along the main straight. I've placed the first keyframe so the camera's slightly leading the car. Then I'll move the camera and place the second keyframe at the end of the straight, but more to the front of the car and zoomed in a bit. This is because we're sort of losing the sense of speed from the passing background as we move round to the front. As a side note, if you make sure you have the correct driver selected, then all of the autofocus is taken care of. Now let's hit play and, wow, that's pretty sweet. With this kind of shot, applying easing can be tricky since you want the speed of the camera to remain pretty linear in relation to the car, but it is still kind of cool, and we could drag the keyframes around a little on the timeline to make this work better, but more on that later. Next up, let's try a Dolly Zoom. This is where the camera moves towards or away from the subject, that's the dolly part, and at the same time it zooms in or out in the opposite direction to the camera movement. It's more intuitive than it sounds. What this shot does is dramatically changes the perspective within the frame, and it can be used to create tension, disorientation, or in this case for cool points. This shot would be totally impossible in real life, so it's fun to play with here. Once again, you'll see that I'm changing the easing curve and moving around the keyframes to better suit the movement of the car within the frame. It's worth noting that you can right-click on the keyframes to delete them if you don't like what you've done, and also clear all of the keyframes and start again. So far, so simple. So let's go for something a bit more over the top. how about a drone shot of some BMW M1s? By using the follow car camera, we only have to worry about the position of the camera relative to the car itself, which is really useful for these kind of shots. I'm going to place multiple keyframes here to get our drone to dive in behind the car, pull up at the last moment, and then rotate around to the front as we exit Paddock Hill Bend. This kind of shot does need quite a lot of finessing to get it to be smooth, and I think it's fair to say it's a little bit over the top, but let's be honest, we're not making Citizen Kane. As a final example of what can be done with multiple keyframes, I've set up a shot that follows the Formula Raceroom 90 out of its pit box and down the pit lane. I found the best way to approach things like this is to establish the first and last keyframe before anything else, and then position any others that you may need afterwards. What this does is it allows you to create a slightly better flow to the movement, though in this case, on reflection, watching it back as I'm editing and recording this voiceover, I probably should have done a tiny bit more tweaking to really smooth things out. So then, what that amounts to is a whole bunch of shots that would be totally impossible and impractical to recreate in real life, even if you wanted to take motorsport into the Michael Bay cinematic universe. So it's worth remembering that you can and definitely should use this for more sensible camera movements. Unsurprisingly, I've been really impressed by this update, in part for the flexibility in the features, but the real game changer for me is how easy this is to use and how quickly I can pull these kind of shots together. Workflow is very much the key word here. But I feel that's probably more than enough discussion of replay cameras for this lifetime and the next. Thanks to Sector 3 and Matthias for listening to my complaining and for making something very niche and very, very good. As I mentioned in my previous video, I'll be previewing more Raceroom updates over the coming weeks, including the newly overhauled force feedback system. So if you want to see that and anything else I remember to film in the meantime, then the subscribe button is just sitting there, minding its own business.